So to start with, I am here with you to share the my study, my research, which I actually conducted last school year. So that is entitled The Comparison of Prototype and Contextualized Learning Module Basis in Developing Localized Learning Material. Actually, this study is actually very simple, wherein the main focus of this research is just to compare the performance of the students who utilize the prototype and the contextualized one, and that would be a basis for the teachers to develop or to formulate the localized learning material. Okay, and for the better bet or for the better understanding of this particular research, when we say prototype po, those are actually the self-learning modules coming from the central office. They were the authors from the central office were actually made this, and they let us use this in each division. And when we say contextualized learning module, those are actually the modules authored by the writers of each division. So before the conduct of this study, there is actually a need for me to have a permission from the division office if in the class, because there is actually a demand before that we have to use the prototype one. So I don't know, we have to use the contextualized who authored by one of the teachers here in La Union. And I asked the permission of the head to use the prototype in the grade 10. Later on makikita po natin. Okay? So, and of course, the specific statement of the problem or the goal of this specific research is, of course, the first one is to see the level of the validity and the usability of these learning materials. So I was not able to include this already because, of course, there is actually a short period of time for us to discuss this. Okay, and the second one is for us to know the increased percentage of the performance of the students who are actually under the prototype, and of course the contextualized one. And the third objective of this study is to know the level of the mastery of the of course, or what they call that, to determine the performance of the students in mastering the first grading competency. Actually, I've used the subject science because of course I'm teaching science po in Bangbangolan National High School. Okay, so to start with, to give you actually a springboard of this research, let me just give you a short background of the status of our education today, most especially the update on the performance of our students this time. According to the year-end report of our Secretary Briones, that was actually 2019, she reported that the quality of education in the country was put under the spotlight in 2019, following the results of both local and international assessments on students' performance, which highlighted low performance of Filipino learners. As an educator, it is really alarming that we were labeled, the learners we have here in the Philippines has low performance. So it will rely, it will fall still on the performance of the teachers. That is what our superiors are always telling to us. What did you do to improve it? Let's just like that. Okay. In addition, the result of the national achievement test concluded that conducted during the school year 2017-2018 gravitates towards the low proficiency levels, especially in the major subjects, my dear friends: science, mathematics, and English. It was administered for grade 6, grade 10, and grade 11. And aside from that, based from the result of the NOT, DepEd also revealed that the latest result of the Program of International Student Assessment, which is the PISA, of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, where the Filipino learners placed last among 79 participating countries and near last in science and mathematics. So if you will try to analyze this, if you will try to think of it, it is very sad that we are in the lowest position in terms of academic performance. And of course, because of that, because of the low performance of Filipino learners, the low proficiency levels, especially in science and mathematics and math and English, which actually these subjects are considered major subjects, and Filipino learners placed last among the 79 participating countries. It is very sad. The Sulong Edukalidad program of our secretary is actually pushing. What is the aim of, or what are the objectives of this Sulong Edukalidad? Um, uh, the Sulong Edukalidad is actually a program of the Department of Education or the government itself to enhance the instruction of teachers, because they still believe, and according to the researchers, my dear friends, that the performance of our students is actually based from the quality of performance of the teachers in terms of pedagogy, in terms of approaches, methods, and techniques. That's actually what they are saying to us. That's the sulong edukalidad for general po yun, ha. And of course, with that, because of the pandemic, because of the emergence of this COVID-19 based from the World Health Organization. Please bear with me po, because this update is as of September 2020, because I conducted this study last school year, that was the school year 2020 and 2021. So this is the case of the COVID in our first country, national, Ilocos region, La Union, and even the city of San Fernando. So if you will try to analyze this again, it is really increasing and it is really a big problem. That is why the emergence of pandemic really brought a very big impact in all the social institutions of our society, most especially in the school aspect. Why? Because of the what we call that um because of the what we call that because of the emergence of the pandemic, the whole system in education was changed, from the delivery of the learning materials, from the delivery of the teaching learning process, I should say, from the assessment, from the what they call that from giving feedback to the students. Actually, it was actually changed. But because of that, our secretary Briones is really a positive thinker one. That's why the DepEd Order number 18 series of 2020, the policy guidelines for the provision of learning resources in the implementation of the basic education learning continuity plan. So education must continue. That's it. So that's actually the main point. So our Department of Education is really doing their part for us to continue the quality education or the learning among our students. However, the challenge here is, of course, distance learning will be conducted. So therefore, the assurance, of course, the assurance of the quality education or the learning modality of our division here in San Fernando is self-learning module from central office. So we have the self-learning module from central office, which is actually considered as prototype, just like what I've said a while ago. And we also have this contextualized learning module. If you will going to ask me why is it that there is a combination of the self-learning module and contextualized learning module, because there are subject areas in the basic education that the self-learning module from central office is not available. So the authors here, the writers here, including me, of course, are one of the authors po kasi ng mga modules or what we call the self-learning modules here in our division. So there is actually a contextualized learning module. And of course, with that, one of the schools in the division office, which is Bangbangulan National High School, has actually a very big problem. This is also a result of my research when prior to the pandemic one. The students are experiencing difficulty in solving worded problems, and of course, we introduce now the 2000 the during the school year 2019 and 2020 the 7E model. How is it really?
Sir,
Yes
Sir
po.
Fusilero, yes po. May I respectfully request, as much as we would like to give you as much time, please wrap up your presentation in 5 minutes po.
Okay, so 5 minutes na lang po talaga siya. Okay po. Okay, so this is actually the condition wherein the Department of Education or the division office is mandating us to use the modules. However, students in Bangbangolan National High Schools have difficulty in solving worded problems and etc. That's why we have this 7E model. However, again, now in the methods of this research, I actually used the questionnaire for validity and usability, both the prototype and the contextualized one. Quasi-experimental approach was also utilized because I divided the respondents into two. We have the students who will be utilizing the experiment, utilizing the prototype, and the students who will be utilizing the contextualized. Purposive sampling, because that's grade 10 students of Bangbangolan National High School, because it's a school-based only. The percentage increase of the performance of the students was determined. The pre-test and the post-test present in the learning materials were compared and computed. The performance of the students in mastering first quarter competencies was determined through their quarter grade. And the mean scores from the pre-test and post-test first quarter grade and standard deviation of the data that were gathered from the respondents was obtained, and t-test for dependent means was used to determine the significant difference with the alpha 0.5.
Last 3 minutes.
And this is the instrument I use to measure the validity and the usability, of course. I actually use this for the sake, no, I let the evaluators, 5 experts from Pangasinan Division, from Ilocos Division, and La Union Division. They are actually writers of the module, and the EPS, the Education Program Supervisor. And this is the K-12 grading system. You are familiar with that po. I don't need to discuss that. Okay, the result and discussion pertaining to the level of validity and usability of both materials, they have high validity, prototype and contextualized. And when we say, of course, with the usability, they also have high usability. Okay. The thing is, in the table 3, of course, the percentage increase of the performance of the students, it is very evident that the students who use prototype have a lower percentage increase compared to the students who utilize the contextualized one. So there's a big difference, 12.10% from the prototype and 12.52% from the contextualized one. And of course, in the table 4, it is now the performance of the students in terms of the learning competency for the first grading. For the prototype, the main grade of that is 80.58, which is interpreted as satisfactory. And for the contextualized students, 82.42, that is still satisfactory. However, because of the analysis variance, because of statistics, it is claiming that there is still a significant difference between. So if we will try to look, there is a greater, of course, average in the contextualized one. The conclusion here is, I will just shortcut it. The conclusion here is we have teachers should contextualize learning materials. Standard type of learning materials are very good. However, of course, there is actually a need for us to see the experience of the students and to level the learning materials that we are using for them to realize and to appreciate the learning competency, because some students cannot see the value of the topic that we are discussing if they cannot see, they cannot experience, and they cannot, of course, they cannot apply this in their life. So contextualized learning materials and of course prototype are actually very good. However, again, contextualized is encouraged. Okay, recommendation, andyan po ang recommendation ko. Contextualization of learning materials can improve students' performance. So therefore, teachers should see to it that the learning materials are contextualized.